Welcome to Intentionality with Dominique, the show that helps business owners become valued and in-demand suppliers in the marketplace to scale their businesses. Let's start today's show with host and intentional connector, Dominique Simpson-Milton.
Intentionality with Dominique is designed to spotlight successful entrepreneurs, those who've made it past a critical 10-year mark and have valuable insights to share. Their journeys offer lessons that can help less experienced business owners avoid common pitfalls and grow stronger faster. Because the more businesses we help survive, the stronger our economy becomes. Today, we're spotlighting Karen Jenkins, President and CEO of KRJ Consulting, LLC. For more than 18 years, Karen has helped organizations, entrepreneurs, and government agencies strengthen performance, build leadership capacity, and navigate complex environments. Through strategic advisory leadership development, workforce training, and small business capacity building programs, her work focuses on helping leaders clarify strategy, strengthen operations, and position their organization for sustainable growth. Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to see you. Karen, you spent nearly 2 decades helping organizations strengthen leadership, operations, and strategy. What originally inspired you to start KRJ Consulting, and what mission continues to drive your work today?
So the reality is it was not by choice. I was in corporate America for 23 years. I'm what I call a recovering banker. I was in banking for 12 years, mortgage banking for 11, and in 2007 got laid off. Uh, I was led to entrepreneurship, and it has been a blessing the entire time. But on this journey, I discovered what I call my life question. And the answer to that was helping people, adding value and making a difference. And what better way to do that than to leverage my 23 years of corporate experience, 22 of that in management. So I opened up KRJ Consulting to be a management consulting firm.
Okay. So for our listeners, I explained some of it in the opening, but explain on a third grade level what you actually do for corporations.
So organizations normally have um, challenges. So let's say you are a small business, you might have a limited access to opportunities, you lack infrastructure. There's challenges that are faced with trying to position your business or trying to have business development. Organizations like federal agencies might have issues with workforce performance or capacity, where we come in and do staffing augmentation, where we provide our subject matter experts to work with them. And then corporations have leaders that have been promoted into roles, but they've never been leaders before. So we come help those organizations that are seeking to improve, enhance the leadership capabilities of their team, small businesses that are ready to scale, and really any organization that is in need of, and I will tell you that all of them are, need of alignment when it comes to their core values, their mission, and their vision.
I get it. I get it. And so, from your experiences, tell me your favorite success story helping an organization.
So I will say my favorite one is we had an opportunity a couple of years ago to do some work with the U.S. Department of Transportation. Right after Congress passed the bipartisan infrastructure bill, $1.2 trillion was approved, and half of that was coming to the states. Well, the administration, Biden and Secretary Pete Buttigieg, wanted to ensure that the small women-owned businesses got a bite of the apple when those dollars hit the street. So we were brought in to help them enhance their already wealth creation plan and their strategic plan to ensure that that happened. And then that blossomed into more opportunities for us. And we actually launched a one-day mini pilot called Pathways to Entrepreneurship. We had 60 days to do it. And we ended up doing a mini what we call an alpha pilot. And in 60 days, we had over 1,000 people that registered. We had over 400 people that participated either virtually or in person, and literally had people coming to that corporate office from Wisconsin, from Missouri, from California for that one-day event because of the content that we put together. And what we were creating was an opportunity for small businesses to pivot into areas of innovation where those $1.2 trillion would be going. so we could ensure that they got a bite of the apple.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. That leads me right into my next question because you work with corporations, government agencies, and small businesses. So, from your perspective and training all those individuals, what are some of the biggest challenges that minority and small businesses are facing right now when it comes to growth and opportunity?
So one of the biggest ones, everybody says access to capital, and that is a true statement. However, there's access to opportunities.
Yes.
We as small minority-owned businesses tend to stick in our little area. We're not comfortable being out in the masses. We have to get out of our own way. We have to make sure that we partner with other larger businesses because sometimes the business is not going directly as a prime. Sometimes the business comes in building relationships with others to go after work. And I do training for DBEs in South Carolina. And one of the things I share with them is that if an opportunity comes out and it has 5 requirements in that scope, but you can only do 3, most small businesses walk away from that and go, oh, I can't do that. And I'm like, no, stop. You can do that. Go and find a team member or a teaming partner in another small business that can do the other 2 things. Because for me, 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing.
So I call that scaling, and I'm glad that you mentioned that because that is a true problem. Access to capital is one, but ability to scale, your ability to be able to have in your pocket people that you can reach out to when needed to be able to address those other 2 components or 3 components, whatever it is. Or if you can only make 100 widgets, who's going to help you make the other 300 widgets to be able to address that contract? So that is key. I'm also finding that a lot of leaders today, Karen, are operating very complex and in a fast changing environment. What organizations bring you in? When organizations bring you in, what are some of the first things that you look at to help them strengthen performance and build a capacity?
So, of course, we do what I call a holistic approach in our methodology. So we don't, you come in and tell me you got a toothache or there's pain coming out of your tooth. I might look at your entire body because it may not just be coming from the tooth. It may have been originating from someplace else. So we like to do a triage because somebody can tell you what the symptom is, but they may not know exactly what the cause of that symptom is. So we come in and depending on whether it's strategic initiative, it may be leadership development training. So I'll use the leadership development training as an example. On the development side, we come in and we meet with stakeholders and we have conversations about, tell me what are you saying? What are the problems? What's happening on your team? What is the big pain point? And then we actually step back and come up with a customized solution for their specific need. We don't do cookie cut or anything. So if they're coming to us for training, they can't expect us to pull something off the shelf and say, hey, check the box. Because what we want to do is we want to know the problem, devise the solution, implement the solution, but give them measurable things that they can track after we're finished to ensure that we delivered on exactly what we said we would do.
Would you say that's one of your differentiators, being able to customize each solution for your customer?
Oh, for sure. Because, and again, I'm not going to, I'm not bashing anyone, but our specialty is coming in and doing just that, is making sure that we're going directly to the the cause of the solution. And again, walking away and ensuring that our clients can visibly see exactly what we did and the impact that we had.
Okay. All right. So getting back to the question on capacity. So when you're coaching an individual, how do you train them to increase capacity?
So infrastructure is probably one of the biggest challenges that most people have. And in the beginning, I did as well. So first, businesses grow. And to be able to be successful and grow, they have to have that growth mindset. But you also have to work on and not in your business because you got to have a vision. So where am I going? What am I trying to create? And then you have to have systems. You have to replace yourself. If you are the only person in that business and you're the only person doing those things, you can't scale beyond your capacity. So to grow beyond that capacity, you have to bring people in. But if you're bringing people in and you want to ensure that you're giving them the same quality of work that you're delivering, you have to define that for your new team members. You have to have systems in place that you want them to follow. Yes, you want them to bring their expertise. You want them to bring their past experiences. But if you have 5 different experiences, you're going to deliver an inconsistent product to your client. So documenting and ensuring that you have systems in place to improve your overall operational and efficiency, and then making sure that operationally you have an infrastructure in place that you're putting the right people in the right seat.
So I'm calling that standard operating procedures, and then
Yes.
clearly the right people in the right place. So Karen, you touched on my favorite question, that's working on your business versus working in your business. When did you learn the importance and the difference of the two?
Oh, I got caught in it real quick. As an entrepreneur, and especially let's go back to the I'm the only one. When you're in there and you're the chief cook and bottle washer, you're doing everything. So it's kind of hard to step back when you're trying to make sure all the gears are flowing and there's gas in the tank and everything else is happening. But you kind of work on it in the beginning because you do some form of a business plan, or even if it's a canvas model business plan, you put something on paper that says, this is my company, my mission, my vision, this is where I'm going. But when you get in the kitchen and start cooking, you're not trying to sit down and figure out what the menu is. You already know what it is and you're doing it. But for me, once I realized that you kind of spin your wheels, and when you're ready to actually do that scaling, when you're ready to actually do that growth, you have to step back. So we do a semi-annual strategic planning session every year where we sit down and kind of look at, here's where we've been and here's where we're going. And we set a goal for the year, and then we touch base every month to see how we're doing. We do what I call key performance indicators or key performance measures, and track our performance, because I don't want to set a goal in January and say, I'm trying to get to point J over here, and then I don't look at it until December to figure out if I made it. Because sometimes you set goals and you have to pivot, or you have to change, or you have to tweak. You want to make sure that the processes that you put in place are working.
And so that's so important. I hope our listeners heard that. So not only do you create a strategic plan, but you go back and you reevaluate it and you stay on top of your KPIs as you go through. Because that's another problem that business owners have. They don't know their numbers, right? And if you don't know your numbers, you don't know what's working and what's not working, right?
Exactly.
And then also you had to learn how to slow down in order to speed up. Let's talk about the importance of development. I know you've gone to one of our development programs at Sunoco. Talk to me about how that helps you in your business.
So I'll tell you a story before I get to the Sunoco. So being in business, and I was working in the business, and I had probably been in business like 2, 3 years. And I found myself kind of and you don't realize it, I was just in a rut. I was just doing. It was like the hamster on the wheel. And I had an opportunity to go to a conference. It was a veteran's wife conference for business. I think it was called BWise. And I went to this conference, and Dominic, I'm telling you, I was like, oh my gosh, I was in Disneyland being fed. And then I had to think about it. I said, was it really that good? Or was I just starving for information? Was I just starving for development? And it probably was a combination of both. But I think after that time, I made a commitment that I was going to commit to no less than 2 professional development opportunities, whether it was local or I had to travel, but I was going to commit to no less than 2 every year. Because when you step away, and that's again working on, not in, when you step away from your environment and you can go into these places and be fed and get information and learn things that you can bring back and apply in your business. It's just it's a mindset thing. And being in business as a leader is lonely.
Yeah,
There's nobody here but me to talk to. When I was in corporate, I had a boss, I had teammates, I had all these people that I could go and, run stuff by. Or if I had a problem, they could help me with it. Solo dolo here. And when I'm in these rooms with these other leaders, that is powerful. So fast forward, I get certified with CVMSDC, and I'm in another group of like-minded people. We're all kind of, sharing some of our scenarios, but being in that group and being fed. And then foundationally, when you're in business, you don't know what you don't know.
that's just
So when
great.
you have a program like Sunoco that helps you identify gaps that you can go back and implement immediately, then it makes a whole world of difference for your business. So I love that program, and I love CVMSDC for all that you guys do to support our small business community.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because it's just, I love that you said you don't know what you don't know. And that's what that can be a pitfall for a lot of business owners, right? You think you're going along and everything is great. You've got your website, everything is great. but you don't take time to step back and say, okay, I've had this website for 5 years. I need to pivot, relook at it. And taking time to slow down and going to a program like the Sunoco Leadership Program, which was about 6 months, you have that time for other people to give you insight into your business. You have consultants that consult with international corporations that work with you to help you on your business. And it's so important because when you're so close to your business, you miss some things. So that a slight tweak, Karen, can make a difference of tenfolding your business versus one-folding your business, right?
Very true. Very
Yes,
true.
yes. So let's talk about the importance of a leadership mindset. Energy and mindset is so critical. How does a leader's mindset impact the culture and performance of an organization?
So the leadership mindset is the culture of the organization. So you think about it, as things are going on in your business, when you walk in and you're in a good mood, then everybody in your office is in a good mood. When you walk in your office and you're in a bad mood, oh, watch out. So we set the stage, and we have to be aware of the energy that we carry. One of my favorite slogans with our synergy reset model is that you're responsible for the energy that you bring into the room.
Yes.
And the reality is that people are reacting to your energy. And if I say energy, some people may not understand that. We're all energy. Very true. If you don't believe me, I'll rub my foot on the carpet and touch you. Boom, there's a shot. But we're all energy. So that energy carries what I call a vibrational frequency. And you've been in rooms where you go into this room and two people just finished arguing. You can feel that. It's very thick. But you can also go in another room when there's a party going on, and then there's this happiness and this joy. So you see the two variations of vibrational frequency that people have. What happens with us is that we have this vibrational frequency, and if we don't check in, sometimes we don't realize that we're carrying it. So if you are on your way to work and you had a flat tire, and then when you fixed it, you were going to be late, and then you getting off the highway and somebody almost run you off the road and they shoot you bird, your energy level is probably not happy right now. But when you get out of the car and you walk into the office to talk to your team, if you're still carrying that energy, they can feel that. And sometimes your responses, your reactions, and everything else can be short. So I give this example to people. That happened to you on your way home, and you had a bad day at work on top of that. And then you walk in, and the day before that, your husband asked you, well, baby, what we having for dinner? You say, oh, no, I think we'll have some green beans and some fried chicken and some whatever. And then the next day comes, right? And these things have occurred, and he asked you the same question. And now your response is, well, I don't know what you want. Like, can you get a meal? Like, that your person did not ask for that. They did not know that you had a bad day. It wasn't their fault that these things happen. So if we don't check our energy at the door, and it's the same thing with our jobs, if those things happen to you on your way in, and then your employee comes in to deliver some information to you, and you cut their head off because something bad has happened to you, that is not leadership. So leadership to me is one where we have to check in and make sure that we're responsible for the energy we bring into the room because our people are responding to it.
That's good. That's good. I always say it's not what happens to you, but how you respond to what happens to you. And then also as a leader, you have to have strong emotional intelligence to be able to self-correct. Even if you do something wrong, if you do bring that bad attitude, how do you quickly self-correct and apologize, right?
Yes.
And get your team back on the right footing because you are the leader. You set the tone. So I love that you said that. Karen, I don't
I add this too. Sometimes we need time to reset, Dominique.
Yes.
If I know that I'm carrying that and my team is rushing me, because they do, they're rushing me because they got something. I said, can y'all give me, just give me 1 second. And then let me go in the room or the bathroom and let me reset, and then let me come out. Because again, I don't want to pour all of that on them.
Very good. Very good. So Karen, I read about one of the initiatives that you had is called Centerverse. Can you explain what Centerverse is and how it supports leaders and entrepreneurs?
So the Cineverse came about years ago, Dominic. I was doing, I speak publicly, I do trainings, and somebody would always come out and say, well, Karen, can we go to lunch? Can we have coffee? And the answer was always yes, because they wanted to pick my brain. And that's what they were supposed to do. I even teach people, build relationship, get a mentor, get a sponsor. And when I started growing my business, I got to the point where I did not have the capacity to say yes to everyone. So I ended up trying to figure out how I do this. So there was another group, or I'm gonna say thing that I created, which was a group mentoring, group coaching program called Eat, Learn, Grow. So I was meeting with small businesses once a month from 11:30 to 1. All they had to do was pay for their lunch. And we could come in, they got to meet each other, they got to talk to each other, they got to ask me anything they wanted. And then if they asked something, the cool thing was you got to hear what I had to say, but there's other perspectives as well. So they got to hear what other people had to say as well. So that morphed, and we've been doing that probably since 2018. Well, some of the small businesses wanted more. They, again, I said, this is lonely. This place where we're in, it can be scary because you don't know what you don't know. So when we look at the Centerverse, it provides a structured environment where a group of entrepreneurs and leaders can access leadership development, because I'm giving them my content. We talk about strategic insights. There's a whole community support. So again, they might have a question, and they can, because it's an online system, they can go online and say, hey, look, I got a problem. And the group can dissect that. We're giving them tools. We have, I have monthly, what I call office hours. So again, it's an opportunity for them to be fed, to be coached, to have peer collaboration. And with all of that, what our focus is making sure that the small businesses have clarity. We help them with their strategies. And again, when you're by yourself, you need accountability. So we help them navigate complex challenges and scale their impact on their business and their community. So
That's
again, it launched April of last year.
That's
and
good.
we've been rolling ever since.
I love that in addition to the consulting work you're doing, you're giving back to the community, right? You have a gateway for entrepreneurs to be able to find a way to build and grow. So thank you for that. Last question, Karen. If you could do it all over again, knowing what you know now, what would you do different as a business owner that could be helpful to our business owners that are trying to get over that 5-year mark?
So one of the main things I have to say is I would build out my infrastructure, my systems when I'm growing it. Because for me, I was busy, as I said, chief cook and bottle washer, trying to do everything all by myself. And I ended up doing everything. So my notes, paying my bills, all the process. I had my little cheat sheet and everything was kind of written down, but I was doing everything myself. I got our biggest contract ever. And when I landed the contract and signed my name on the dotted line, all the oxygen left the room. Was like, oh my God, I need help. So that's when I had to scale and bring other people in. Well, when I brought my first person in, I didn't have a standard operating procedure to hand over. I didn't have something documented and written down as far as how I had been handling my customers, how I had been handling my operations, how I've been handling my finances. So I had to have my person sit. I said, look, you just have to sit on my side, right? You're going to have to sit on my hip, and you're going to have to watch me do whatever I'm doing. And then you're going to have to document it, right? And I wish during the slower times that I had actually done that process earlier, so that I could have had something to pass on, so that I did have the documentation on what I was doing as a small business. So as we grew and scale, we could be consistent.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So having standard operating procedures in place and being able to onboard people properly and quickly so that they can get up to speed very quickly. So thank you
Yes.
so much, Karen, for being here today. Congratulations on 18 years of success and your future.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. If you'd like to learn more about how Karen Jenkins at KRJ Consulting can support your organization with strategic advisory, leadership development, workforce training, or small business capacity building, visit krjconsulting.com or contact Karen directly at kjenkins@krjconsulting.com. Well, that concludes today's episode of Intentionality. Be sure to join me for our next episode, and remember that we must always, always remain intentional to gain knowledge, skills, and connections so we can grow and thrive in business. I'm Dominique Simpson-Milton, and I will see you next time.
This has been another episode of Intentionality with Dominique, brought to you by the CVMSDC. For more information, please visit cvmsdc.org.